Welcome to the video today. Today we have a special guest joining the channel, and some of you may know him, some of you may not, but let's just go ahead and intro him. He's got a huge history not only in VeVe, but Pokemon, and very influential in the metaverse space. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. Welcome, Randy Chavez, and today, man, I'm happy to have you on the channel, and it is a pleasure to have you on, man. It's been a long time. Been watching your videos and streams for a while now, but can you introduce yourself to the viewers and everybody tuning in? A lot of people on my channel already know who you are, but for the new people tuning in, could you intro yourself a little bit there?
Yeah, sure. My name is the real Randy Chavez, coming at you from my kitchen with my god dog Dashi. Hello, Dashi. And got my start in the finance in 2017 when I was hired onto this private bank doing high risk loans. And my job at the time was just to kind of see if someone was qualified, to see if they needed money right away. And I would get like the package in, which would be an application, a few months of business bank statements, and then the underwriters would really go over whether they really qualified or not. And I got really interested in seeing if they were qualified. And their guidelines that the underwriters were using were not necessarily some of the guidelines that I thought would be most profitable or give the best ROI. So I really started looking into it, and that was my less than 1 month there. I started my own company underneath their umbrella, and I started doing that, and I was really good at it. I'd never tried it before, and it was like I had one of the best teachers, my friend, my brother Daniel Hardwick. He'll be on the podcast at some point, and he kind of taught me a lot of what I knew. And then it just kind of the rest of finance kind of snowballed from there into Pokemon, into Tesla, into Earth 2, VeVe and OMI, and that is the financial background since 2017.
Man, that's really cool. And you have a military background as well and serve. So thank you for your service, by the way. I really do appreciate that.
Oh,
And
Sergeant.
you are, I mean, you got a little tan skin going on. What nationality are you? I'm Native American, so I got to ask, man. I got a little tan going on. Is it
No problem.
Peruvian? Is that right?
Yeah, from
So,
Peru. I get like so I normally I don't think I'm this dark, but I've spent the last couple weeks like me and my friend Ty, we go sparring. Um and usually we spar outside, but he has a pool and it's been really hot out. So like let's just spar in the pool. And it kind of helps with balance because it's really slippery. And it's so I've been in the pool a lot, and that's how I've gotten a little bit darker than I normally would like to be. But that is
man, I like to be dark. I don't know about you. I'm like a Loki alligator. I like to soak up the sun, if you know what I mean. So,
Yeah, I
um,
get really, I don't know what the word, like the best wording is to not get canceled. I like the darker I am, the more I get treated like a minority, which is, I guess, like what I
yeah.
am, but it gets a little like, I don't know, minorities will know what I mean. And
Oh yeah. Dude, Native Americans are a minority of a minority. It's like a minute percentage, and you understand, I'm sure. So, yeah, totally understand, and it is one of those things, man. I'm actually gonna grow out my hair to, yeah, to stun a little bit. Like I'm just gonna rep Native culture, and I actually grew up going to powwows across the nation and things like that, going to different tribes and learning about the different tribal cultures. Each tribe has their own little, they have their own either belief systems or they have their own teachings and obviously their own languages. So it's like super diverse in that culture, but totally understand on that. But fast forward to VeVe though. Let's get back into VeVe real quick. So you did actually Earth 2 a lot of very early on. I actually watched your stuff to learn more about Earth 2 and was watching you do the minerals and all that stuff. And very interesting. And I started looking into it. And could you tell me about how you got into Earth 2 and also where you're at with it now? Also transitioning into VeVe a little bit too. Like how did you learn about VeVe and all that good stuff?
yeah, sure. It's all. I feel like that episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Dennis and Mac they all learn about like Facebook, and they're so anti-Facebook at first, and then like, wait, no, it's how we're all connected. It's like, and they just hang with each other. Anyway, it's all connected because my friend Steve, who I had served with, he goes by Aria Realty or Aria Realty Investments on Twitter and YouTube, and he he did like finance videos, and I hadn't seen a video from him in like months. And he's like a really good friend. You know, we started together for like years. And then I randomly, I'm driving home from New Jersey one day, and I get a notification. Oh, our realty has just posted on his new YouTube video. It's like, okay. And then I listened to it, and I'm expecting something on like, credit card farming or just ways to like up your credit score or something.
Mm.
And then it's like, hey guys, I just found a new thing called like a metaverse. It's called Earth 2. And I've heard the term thrown around before. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I get super FOMO as soon as I listen to it, where it's just they partner with Mapbox and they have like a one-to-one map of Earth. So unlike most stuff, like including like what the VeVe will be and like the Decentraland Sandbox that are just kind of made up worlds of their own imaginations, this is the biggest metaverse as far as like one-to-one map of Earth. It's the largest thing. They started their tiles at 10 cents per tile. So they started with their land sale before they had a game. And I was like, oh, so I call them like, you didn't even think to tell me about this before you made a video? Like, how dare you? So I go in and I was like, I start buying everything. Tiles in America were already like, because they started 10 cents a tile. Tiles in America were already like $1.25. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll buy too much of that. That seems really expensive. And now like those same tiles are like $60 a tile now. So like I really messed up
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
So I started buying like Brazil, South Africa, India, like
Mm.
all the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and then South Korea because I saw what they were doing, and that's going to come big in the VV-verse. And when they were teasing their crypto last year, they're like, oh, they put out some really cryptic tweets. Shane Isaac, from the CEO, and I found out it was going to be on GoChain. So I was like, oh, okay. So I have to go to GoChain and see what type of crypto have this really big supply that's really, really cheap. I was like, okay, OMI, this looks like it's big supply, it's stupid cheap. And then this guy called Earth 2 Mastery, who obviously based on the name, was the Earth 2 guy, but he had made some videos on OMI as well. I was like, OMI, oh, it's already attached to a project called VeVe. All right, this is interesting. So I look into that more. And then I go and my friend Dan that I told you about before, but I was still working with him in the high risk lending business in early 2021. I call him and I was like, Dan, sell everything right now. Buy all this on me. Like just sell everything right now. And he's like, whoa, like what is it? So I was like, listen, there's like a limited supply of it. The tokenomics is going to burn. That you have like Alfred Archon, and I know you don't know who he is, but trust me, he's like my idol with the Pokemon and just getting everything. He's had a licensing, and I threw so much information at him at once. I was like, okay, I need to make some videos on this. And the reason why, so Earth 2's crypto is not on GoChain. The reason why both of them were on GoChain was because there was a bad actor originally in both of these things. It was the same guy, and he's no longer associated with both projects. So there's really nothing bad about any of these two projects right now. And as soon as my plan was in early 2021, when I had first retired, was going to be like, okay, I'm going to keep my Tesla stock. I'm going to keep some Pokemon cards. I'm going to keep my Earth 2. I'm going to buy a little bit of OMI. I'm just going to make videos on both, and I'm just going to see where that takes me. And then, as soon as I like really get into VeVe and OMI and like really found out all these licensing, I sell all of my Tesla. I sell all my Bitcoin. I sell all my aging receivables that I had for the high risk lending company, and I put everything into OMI except for Earth 2. That's the only thing I didn't sell, because their crypto hasn't come out yet. It kind of has. It's called Essence, and that'll launch in probably Q4 of this year. But I will probably sell some of that for OMI if OMI's still down. That's probably going to be a couple dollars worth, like maybe $2 per token, and I got about 38,000 of them. So I might sell a little bit of that for OMI if it's still down. And then that's kind of the story of why I still cover both, because they're both really amazing projects.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's an amazing story. And really, you began pretty early on, obviously. Like, you've been just from day one grinding, doing like pretty much daily streams almost from the get go. Like, I mean, I remember just there's Earth 2 videos, boom, then you were doing the OMI, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. And it was kind of cool, it was like all of the first wave of VV YouTubers back then and OMI YouTubers. It was kind of like we're all in this like little not bubble, but like it was just I was watching everybody back then, and now there's just so many different content creators covering little pieces and snippets of VeVe, which isn't too much of a surprise. There's big fandoms and much different categories in VeVe. But what would you say, man, to people starting out? Like, just go for it, or like, how did you kind of approach starting YouTube and just getting after it? I mean, you've grown. I think we'd all be like, had not been for the bear market, I think bull market, if it persisted, we would all be over like well over 10K. So that in itself is a huge feat. You're like over 8K. It takes years to get to where you're at, and it's been only like 1 year for most of us. So,
Yeah.
what would you say to people like coming up and stuff like that?
I would say just do it. Do the Nike slogan, because there's it's never, it's like, okay, when's the best time to like buy a house or start a business? Like it's never a perfect time. That'll never happen. You just got to start doing it and recognize that most likely you're probably going to suck at first. My first few several months, even now, like I don't have any editing. I don't edit. I have my tablet, which, and for people saying that like, hey, you need all this different equipment, you don't. I got partnered on just this phone. I grinded for a while, and within a year I got partnered just from a phone. So I don't think when starting out you really need any equipment. If you happen to have that already because you have a gaming setup and stuff like that, that's cool. Um, but yeah, a lot of my videos were really god awful at first, and then and again, some of them still, like, the quality is is definitely not the best. But I would say take a look at, know you're joining a good project, a good family, because like you said, there were the original, like, me, you, Taps, Dan Lee, like a whole bunch of, and then after a while, after a few months, the second wave started coming in, like Dino Lang and VV Vibes, all on my wall, and other stuff. And now we have a couple of other people that are coming in, like Kyla May, K Collectibles is on there, VV Magic's going in. So as long as that continues to happen, I feel like there's always continuing interest, and as long as they continue to drops, and then there's always stuff to talk about. I mean, we get news every day. I've made maybe in the last 2 years, I've made about a little over 1,000 videos. In the I haven't missed a day of streaming or making videos in I don't know how many months, and the ones that I have missed in the past like year and a half, 2 years, are very, 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 very small amount, because there's always so much content.
Well,
If I
let me stop you there. Like, where did you find that drive? Like, that's not like normal, I would say. Like, just to like, hey, I'm gonna sit there and stream, like, and you go for hours sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
where did you find that? Like within yourself? I'm curious about that.
um so that's I think that's mostly, like, I think there's some, like, let's say, like with boxing, you can have some people that, like, hey, you're punching not really good right now, you have to go from, like, the foot to the knee to the hip to the shoulder, and then you can get better, and you can improve. But then there's some people that just naturally, for whatever reason, are just blessed with a really good, like, left hook, really good punches. I feel like that's the same way with drive and determination, where, yeah, if you're lazy, you could learn different habits. You can listen to, like, Gary Vee and David Goggins, and all these people, and you can really motivate yourself. But I was born really lucky and just blessed with that gene. It's like, if I want to do something, I can just turn on a switch and do it nonstop. Like, I could stream for 16 hours a day. Like, I could do that one time. I could do um so now I think it's because I don't have to. I think it's more of, like, I feel like a responsibility, where you have, again, people like you, Dan Lee, Todd, like everyone, most everyone has at least another job, if not full-fledged business, and lives, and their significant others and families, and I don't have that. So I don't there's, as a responsibility factor, I feel like there's no reason why I shouldn't, and I should, because, like, there's people that are out there looking to learn. There's people out there looking for, and I try not to do, like, the clickbait titles and the thumbnails, whatever, because I feel like a lot of the older people that I talk to and come in, they like, hey, I like your daily stuff. You're just reporting on news, relatively unbiased. Some things I'm a little biased on, but I think it's that. I think, and also, like, it's fun.
Hmm.
also I want, to quote Pokemon, I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. And if,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I can do things that other people aren't doing, then that'll give me an edge. I'll give me an advantage. And people definitely see that too. So if I, in the next, 5 years or whatever, I blow up and I say, hey guys, I made all you rich. Now I'm going and I am, starting like the Chavez charity of animals, like whatever I decide to call it. It's like time to pay back. Now it's time to so if I can use that for good, that's probably the end goal. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's really inspiring. If I'm like new or coming into the space, or maybe I'm wanting to do my own channel or something, like I'm looking at your channel and seeing like, okay, yeah, like you said earlier, I don't need the best equipment like of all time. I can just get after it, go and really learn from that. So it's cool to see that. I mean, there's a lot, and maybe you don't really. I don't know if this is for you, but I know when I first started YouTube a long time ago, like and I'm pretty open about this, like I struggled mentally. Like I was like, am I doing this good? Like, should I do
mm,
it? And for me, that was always a big battle until I started working on myself, reading books, and kind of getting into the whole self development whole thing, and really grown since. And but even a little, even to this day though, there'll be that little tiny voice that's like, should I? And I'm just like, you just have to squash it, man, like a bug, and just like, screw it, I'm doing it. Like I don't care, and just getting after it. So I appreciate that about you in your channel, but. Uh, so I do have to ask. We're getting into the. Let's get back to the VeVe stuff.
yeah.
I wanted to ask you this from. I think it was last week we saw on Twitter. The GRAIL actually tweeted something similar to this. I've talked about it a little bit, but I'm really curious your opinion because I know you've talked about it too. I've watched videos of you talking about it. FAs, when it comes to certain platforms, what's your thoughts on how this is going to play out? So there's an FA on VeVe, and maybe there's like an FA on Hero, but like even if VeVe releases it and it's like technically the first on VeVe, which one will matter more long run? Is it going to be that FA over here on Hero, but like, or is it going to matter more on VeVe, or is it just like I'm really curious your thoughts because you have a lot of insight when it comes to Pokemon. I've heard you talk and use the reference on like Charizard and things like that. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
So I think that the major like it's just the public and the masses that will decide which one's most important. As I've said before, and for people that haven't known, like base set Pikachu, base set Venusaur, and Charizard. Those, that the one that's like first edition on it. Those aren't the first times we've seen those Pokemon. We've had I think three different iterations of those cards before that first edition, that base set. And it was, okay. A lot of them were Japanese only. Some of them were Japanese only releases. Some of them that were released in English. It just they didn't have that playability. They didn't have all the things that make it click for people.
Mhm.
But the Pokemon cards, in conjunction with the games, in conjunction with the show, manga, like it all just happened at once. And I think it happened to be with those cards. But obviously, you had the game as well. The other cards didn't really have a game associated with it. But the trading card game, which that aspect to it really gave it, and that's why the fourth appearance of these are what people remember. Translating that to the first appearances, it's really just going to be what people identify with, and I think VV has the major advantage is because they're premium digital collectibles. They're not, everything else is just JPEGs for the most part. And I don't know any other company that's doing anything close to what VeVe is as far as that. That being said, there is, even if 99% of people prefer VeVe, there's still going to be, and it might not be that high. It might be a little lower. But there's still going to be people that are going to appreciate the stuff on Hero and the stuff on Recur and the stuff on, just because that's what they like.
Mhm.
Uh, so I mean, you like the Rugrats right now. If let's say those Rugrats are going for like 2-3 ETH right now, and in the future they also give their license out to somebody else, whether it be the VeVe or another company, and they say, okay, we're doing that, and those are 3D models, and they have a little more utility, then money might flow from the JPEGs to 3D models if they're associated with a game or something. And I feel like so NFTs in general, I believe are here to stay. When like how the deed of your house or a gym membership or going to the doctor. I think that in general. So NFTs are definitely here,
Hmm.
and I think gaming is really primed to be able to get a lot of that use because it's people kind of do it anyway, whether it's with CS:GO or Fortnite, things like that. Um, I don't know if I answered your question. I went kind of roundabout with that.
No, yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, what you said earlier is just like the masses will decide, and I think it's like right there. You don't have to think too much farther than that. I think obviously VeVe is like the heavyweight in the room, like, and there's a bunch of lightweights, not even like featherweights in there, just in the ring with it. It's like Mike Tyson, fighting not even a teenager, just like a little boy or something. So yeah, in terms of that, like I'm super bullish on like just VVFAs. I know like people get excited about like I have hero cards back there. I love hero. I think it's cool. My main concern with all the other platforms though is the longevity and like will they be around? I don't know. Like I think Collects is going to be around because they created hero or helped create it and things like that. So in terms of that, I'm still excited about them, but when it comes to VeVe, it's just the users are there. And if I'm a brand like Warner, whoever, like I'm like, why wouldn't I drop more IP and more stuff on VeVe where the users are at, where these drops are selling out? So that does beg another question on the brand side, like why do you continue to drop IP on other random platforms, or do you continue with VeVe? So that's that. What would you do if you're in their shoes? I'm curious. Like, do you obviously just drop on VeVe, or like
The
what do you
biggest
think these brands like are thinking about?
So for me, if I was let's say DC, because DC is everywhere. They're on Hero, and the back cows are on Palm, and they're on
Mm,
VV as well. And who knows, they might even have another agreement out with someone that maybe it hasn't come to light yet. But I'm
mm,
I'm really curious to see why they're doing that. Is because again, like I said, the reason why a lot of those other companies are kind of successful right now, like Hero and Backhouse, is because most people that are buying it are from the VV audience. That
mm,
there's not too many other the space as much as it is growing and it'll do really really well towards the end of this year and beyond it is still not that big yet. Most people don't know what an NFT is. Like I remember my dad telling me like 2 months ago, he's like, yeah, I heard about this Bitcoin on the internet, you're into that, right? And it
mm.
was like, whatever,
Yeah.
dude. um so a lot of people that are older, they might not really know it unless they're really in the financial world. But I would say because DC just renegotiated with VV to have the 6%, same as Disney. That's why you have Batman Black and White season six is like a different than the Black and White season 1 through 5 because everything from then on will have that 6%. As long as they have that, the recurring sales are what I think is going to mean a lot for other companies. Um, but if I were, let's say, like Hello Kitty or Paramount, Nickelodeon, whatever, and I see them going with taking a bet on Recur just because Winklevoss was involved, Gary Vee was involved, and it's like, okay, I'm going to bet on these guys because they potentially had a lot more room to grow than VV because they were really just getting started, and then they kind of realized the follies that they made because some of their stuff isn't. I mean, again, their stuff is selling for a couple of ETH, which is good for them. And I don't know what resale clause they have in there, saying how much they get.
Mhm.
Um, but I also think that's just for right now before mass adoption gets in. And again, we do have a closed platform. There's no OpenSea, there's no any other platform right now. So they might enjoy that, and they might have their licenses with Recur for the next 2, 3, 5 years, whatever. But when it comes time to re-up in like 2025, 2026, n- there's no way I would continue with Recur unless they would, or maybe I would, because there is a big difference between, hey, these are JPEGs, and then these are 3D premium digital collectibles. So maybe you could have both. But if I choose one or the other, it'd be VeVe right now, unless something like Apple, Amazon, and like Tesla all fuse on Ha and they make their own giant thing,
Mhm.
like a tech thing with Meta. Maybe that could be competition. But I really hope that something like that does happen because I think competition does really breed um, the best that out of all parties involved. Uh, but if I were them, yeah, I would maybe not get out of the contract early, but I would definitely go with VeVe next time.
Yeah, yeah. It just seems that these brands really didn't have a strategy, or maybe they didn't think things through fully. If I was one of these brands or big IPs, what I would do is obviously I'd drop my FAs on VeVe, and then I would go to maybe a more branded experience later on for like those really hardcore users or whatever, and kind of present them like, oh, there's this unique marketplace over here. But the problem with that, like my main worry with before Recur even launched, or even I think before Recur, like I even knew about it, was I was like, the problem I see with brands dropping outside of platforms like VeVe right now, before mainstream, is that you're just dropping your IP at this random location over here. But with VeVe, you're dropping it in a bundle with all these other big brands, and there's like a lot of the user. Like I've been saying this, like Facebook acquired Instagram, like because the users were on Instagram. Like it was a completely different like type of social media. It was picture driven. But the thing that Facebook liked was that there was millions of users using this platform every day, and that's why Facebook went ahead and just bought it. And so, like when I'm looking at the NFT space, I'm like, why aren't these businesses thinking like this? Like, so to me, like you said, I think folly or something like that is the wording you used, I think, or something. And I think it's kind of like that same kind of thought pattern. I think it's a kind of a folly. I don't know, like to me it just makes more sense to drop where the users are at, where the drops are selling out, where people are excited and sharing like daily content, and you have humongous amount of YouTubers just doing videos every day. So it is interesting. I'm like, we're like, I guess they're just so new to NFTs, they just don't really realize what they are.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a lot of these big companies again, like I had no idea who David Yu and Dan Carruthers were before this, unless you like Google and say like, oh, hey, New Zealand's Young Entrepreneur Award winner,
Mhm.
David Yu, and Dan Carruthers, successful business owner in the past. Like unless I Googled them, I had a reason to Google them, I would have no, like, what the heck is VeVe? Who are these guys? But I know, everyone knows Winklevoss Twins, everyone knows get Gary Vaynerchuk.
Mhm.
So that kind of makes sense for some. But also, I mean, if
True.
look, they also have a lot less IP, so they're less busy. VeVe has hundreds and hundreds, and so many that they sign new people every month. Like every single month they sign new companies, new brands. And we've had stuff for, well, like say like Jurassic Park, we had for years. And you know and maybe it's up to VeVe, or maybe it's up to Jurassic Park, I don't know. But they say like, oh, hey, you have a movie coming out, let's wait until then. Or we have a movie coming out, let's wait till then. Whereas, let's say if that's not up to licensor, if that's up to VeVe, then if I'm a company like, let's say like Hershey's or Eminent, like whatever I am, I was like, okay, well, if I sign with VeVe now, I might have to wait till 2024 in order to just drop my stuff. So for other people, take that bird in the hand, while the NFT thing is hot, maybe I'll do like a 1 year, 2 year contract with them. So I think that might be the other reason why. But yeah, a lot of these companies don't know what NFTs are. It's so fresh, so new. But that's another reason why I really do like VeVe, because they've been building in the background, thinking about NFTs when there really wasn't too many NFTs. I was like, okay, this is great.
Super easy to get involved. It's just you download the app. Like my mom can buy these NFTs and she has no idea what really NFTs even are. It's just like, yeah, you just download VeVe, just literally the words VeVe, and you just load up a couple gems and you can buy a comic. Boom, you're off to the races. Or there's a blind box, it's $7. Like people get that. What people don't get is like, oh yeah, you got to go to this exchange, you got to get this crypto, you got to download this wallet called MetaMask, and you got to connect it all, you got to do all this. And then oh yeah, you didn't know you had to basically use a desktop computer. Oh okay, so you got to do that too. And it's like by the time they get there, they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, like I just forget this, like I don't care. So that's my main concern right now, and I think that's what VeVe has done really well, is take that headache away from the user.
Yeah, I was interviewing Brock blockchain the other day, and he was like so beside himself. He was like, "Listen, I tried to make it so easy for people to buy fiche. and a lot of people do. But trying to get my mom to use it, and she can't. She just can't. She won't ever. So I was like, just get VeVe stuff, mom.
Man,
Um,
yeah.
and he's super smart, and he has made it a lot of it really, really easy. He makes videos on how to connect to Immutable X. Do you have a fiche?
Yeah, yeah, I got a couple of fish.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's what I really love about VeVe. Just
Yeah,
easy
yeah.
onboard.
It's intimidating, like outside of VeVe, like this ecosystem, to tell people to like you have to go to exchange, even just the simple like just sending crypto to one wallet to like a MetaMask, for instance, like that's a big deal for some people. They're like, I don't want to send that. Like I could lose that. Like, am I doing this right? Like that's a scary moment. And so what VeVe has done is just eliminate that scary moment and just make it seamless. But I'm curious too. Like, there's a big talk right now going on in the VV community of Batman versus Vader. Or do you have a preference? What's your thoughts on that? I want to get your take on that while it's hot.
Yeah, I get asked this at least once a day, and there is, yeah, it's so strange. Which also, what I do, and I say on my channel, I'm sure you say it. You probably have it in your description as well. Not
Hmm.
financial advice, not financial advisor.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's so weird. Like when you get a YouTube channel, people automatically think your opinion like matters more, and it's like, guys, I have such imposter syndrome with that. Um, the from a collecting standpoint, just specific collecting. This is like the TA of collecting, not including what's going on in the macro and popularity. That first Batman is obviously the first Batman, but it's also the first on VeVe. That first of the first set. It's not that first set in general has the Todd, and it's the only set from the at least that I know of that it starts and ends with that number. Like you have the
hmm
uh Todd McFarlane, and then you have the Eddie Riso, like the bookends of the. And actually, I think I could show my Bane
Oh, the
swatch
black,
right
yeah, the
there.
Batman black and white statue
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. So there's 100 of those, and it starts and ends with. So not only do you have that those bookends, and you have the first appearance, but you also have the first error in that set, which is the Eddie Riso is labeled as a first edition, and that's not going to change. They said, it's an error. We're just going to leave it as that, as like a memento. And I don't, and people don't recognize what that means yet. And for those of you that don't say I'm trying to pump my bags, I actually don't have the set anymore. I sold it for OMI, so don't. So this is not me pumping my bags. But like, let's say the Honus Wagner card, from baseball. Honus Wagner, for people that don't know the story, he a baseball player back in like the 20s, 30s, like really way back in the day. And they had the baseball card companies were advertising cigarettes on the back of baseball cards. And Honus Wagner's like, I don't want that on my card. I think it's bad. I don't want to promote that to kids. So he stopped printing his card. And later, the card became super, super rare. It's one of the most desired cards now, like ever, because of how rare it is. And I think that, having the first error on VeVe, where they changed a lot of them. That, like, there was so many errors that were first appearance. They changed first edition that they took that away. Um, and I know that the question was Todd versus Vader
I'm gonna
versus
go on a
Batman.
limb and say it's Batman.
Well, see, from a collecting point, yes, Batman, because there'll never be another first. Like there'll always be other, Batman, and there might be other Vaders. You might have
Mhm.
Vader with a broken mask, with like half Vader, half Anakin. You might have other different things, but there's never going to be another first appearance, or another first of VeVe. That being said, I love comic books in general. I actually like a lot of the DC comics a little, because they're a little bit darker, a little bit more grittier,
Yeah,
than the
yeah,
Marvel comics. Even though some of like the Jonathan Hickman's like Avengers, New Avengers, Secret Wars, they're so good.
yeah. I
Those
can't
are
wait. Yeah.
amazing. But the DCEU is nowhere near as good as the MCU. Even just as far as like monetarily wise, that MCU just pwns everyone like
Mhm.
DC Fold. But and again, I obviously I love Bane. I love DC, and they're just not doing as well. Not because they don't have great material. They do. It's just the writers haven't been as good, and they haven't really had that consistency. But have Disney backing them, Star Wars, with maybe a lot of people didn't like the sequels, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, fair point. There's a lot to be said about that. A lot of smarter people than me have gone and done videos that are longer than the actual films about what's wrong with them. But
I
the
watch a lot of those. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. Yeah, yeah.
like
Uh,
one dude like has like a heart attack, like screaming, like it's nuts. Um, but the
yeah.
but the new like Star Wars, like the Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are like pumping life into Star Wars again with Mandalorian, with the Book of Boba Fett, with the Ahsoka series that they're going to about to do. They're about to do there's so many other series like Bad Batch, and Star Wars is very very good at every X amount of years coming out with new content and onboarding new people and new fans. And I what I didn't expect was people that had never really watched Star Wars and that never really gave a crap about it to start watching it just because of Baby Yoda. Where like if I'm in a meeting and somebody says like, yeah, we want to have like a bounty hunter, escort this, like an offspring of Yoda, or we don't know what it is, clone, whatever,
Mhm.
um, a Baby Yoda to like its destination, and I was like that, like I would say no to that idea, and then it just became like like one of the greatest things. Vader coming out with that Obi-Wan series, it was so important because you have the fans that really appreciate that, showing
Mhm.
Vader just holding back a ship with the Force, like, oh, like
Yeah.
the fan service, like, my God. And then you have the,
Mhm.
like new people that never really knew what that was before. Maybe they saw Rogue One and they're like, whoa, who is this guy? Because he's like just
Yeah.
honing people, Force choking them up, and it's just absolute awesomeness. I don't want to curse because I don't want to get into my house. So just absolute
I
awesomeness.
appreciate that.
I could curse so much right now if I wanted to.
Yeah.
The amount of people that saw that and then like, oh, hey, let me, and then saw the kind of lackluster saber fight in the originals as opposed to Anakin and Obi
Mhm.
Wan and the prequels. For them to get this, to see some cool lightsaber battles, see some cool Force battles, I think that both of them will do obviously really really well, but I can't say which one is going to be better because both are so there's so many other Batmans out there. There's like a dozen other Batman. Batman Who Laughs, that recently, but
Mhm.
there's right now there's only one Vader like that, and maybe that changes. Maybe that changes where he's posing with Luke, or maybe that changes where he's dying, where he's unmasked, and there could be so many iterations of it. But right now, I don't think there's any way to say. I know that was like a 20-minute band
Yeah.
and it took up
No,
one.
that's good. That's, I mean, deep dive, deep analysis. And it is hard to say because personally, like, I'm a huge Batman fan, but I'm also a huge Vader. Like, I literally have Star Wars comics and then I have a Todd next to that. So it's like, for me, it is tough. It's like, I guess we'll have to own both. It's like, that's
Yeah.
one thing I will say though, like, about Todd, the Todd Batman is like, it's kind of what kicked everything off. And of course, like you said, that entire set really, and kind of the fact that Dan Crothers, tried to help craft, that Batman set as well. So I think that's really important. But yeah, it's just like different strokes for different folks or something like that too as well. So it is hard to say. Maybe Disney will do more, types of remakes of Darth Vader or little stories that we've never heard before. And I've seen them doing it in recent comics. I've read a few of those like uh, Doctor Astra or whatever, and her comics actually worth a lot. But had I known it was going to be worth a lot, I would have bought like 500 of those comics. But it is what it is. What's your favorite collectible, by the way?
Um, I think I mean I have the most alligator. Most of my collection is actually alligator Lokis.
Mm-hmm.
But so I would say that, but I really like the Marvel Mighties for a couple of reasons. Like I've played with everyone, whether it's you know uh Sue Storm or Storm or the Thor. Like I've played with all those in my showroom, and they're cool, especially the animated ones. But the Marvel Mighties are just a little more derpy. They're a little more like they're more fun to play with.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you take a look at go on YouTube and search Spidey and His Amazing Friends,
Mm-hmm.
there's always, I guess they have a contract with like Disney or whatever that they can live stream like all their episodes. There's always minimum 3,000 people watching that as they're streaming
Oh
all
wow.
all, all day every day, and a lot of their videos have tens of millions of views, and you just like so the the Gwen Stacy one, the Ghost Spidey, because they have three of them. They have the normal Spider Man, they have the Miles Morales Spider Man, and they have the Ghost Spidey. I think the Mighties, even if they're not gamified, even if they're just more fun to play with, and the characters from that show are they look like Mighties. They
Mhm.
look like them. So I think that the next generation is going to be really interested and nostalgic for them, and they're giving away stuff at in Happy Meals at McDonald's now that are for Thor, and they look very similar to Mighties.
Mm.
So you have the physical one that can get damaged, but then you have the digital ones that don't. So I think the Mighties are really cool as well. And
Yeah.
that's just from my personal opinion. You have historical significance. You have a lot of the stamps that are really cool. You have some of the other ones like I'm really interested in that and the Star Trek ones when things burn. So I
Mhm.
think some Star Wars fans are going to buy them and just burn them, so the Star Trek fans don't have anything to play with.
Hey, yeah, that I mean that that would be funny if that happened, but
Yeah.
yeah, burning is a whole different like nobody really talks about that much anymore, and that's like the hidden like massive catalyst of collectible. I mean, yeah, yeah, and you're excited because you're like, ooh, yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
So
Um,
I'm because I told people I would never sell my Lokis,
mhm.
but I didn't say I wouldn't trade them and I wouldn't burn them. So if you have really good reasons to burn Lokis or burn anything at 198 common Lokis, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Um, and then I also have there's I brought it up a couple times with people that there's certain groups of people, whether on like 4chan or Reddit, that are just trolls, and I think that trolls will come in and just be like, oh, let's just mess with these little girls and burn all the Myrmicornos so they can't have any. It's like just have burn parties. Like it just they'll take the most popular ones. I guarantee you that happens. I don't know when. Could be a year. Could be years from now. But I guarantee you that happens.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean that, and then the whale side of things as well. It's like
Oh yeah.
which collectibles are going to burn, and VeVe themselves have burned like what was it, the Captain America? I think they burned like one of those collectibles at one point, which was very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. There's a few that they burned because
A
they just
few,
were selling
yeah.
out. They're like, we're gonna burn them, and so I bought a few.
Well, it's kind of
That's
like
like okay.
baller move on VeVe's part. We're just gonna burn them. Like no big
Yeah.
deal. Too many editions or whatever. We don't care. We're just gonna burn them.
I'm really
And
curious to see at some point if they have a map of which ones are burned and which mint numbers were held back. Because if I'm like saving some gems for number 420 or number, 6, and then, they were held back, then I don't, or they were burned. I really want to know. I'd be really curious about that.
yeah. So fast forward a year from now, do you think it's just going to be too difficult to keep up with all the NFTs on VV? Like how can you even remember like all the drops at the top of your head? You're like people are just going to remember a few like bullet points. I feel like where do you sit with that? What do you think? Maybe not a year, maybe 2 years from now or 3 years when there's we already have like 8 million NFTs or something crazy. I don't know. Like it's just insane.
So there's, and going back to Pokemon, a lot of people were telling me that or I don't want to say a lot. There were some people that were telling me that I was being unfair, and then there was a lot of people telling me that for one way or another, not I'm being unfair, but I'm influencing the market, maybe a little too much for better or worse. And at that time, I was like, listen, guys, maybe I'd spent. I mean, in 2020, I think I'd spent like 100, like well over $100,000 on Pokemon cards. And in 2019, I was like, hey, I like these because X, Y, and Z, and I'm buying them. And the market just wasn't as mature yet as it was now, and it's still not really 100%. But what I was doing with that is I always tell people like, listen, I am just a small fish in like a giant ocean where you have people that are literally like stores that are spending, I that would spend 10 times what I spent in a year. They would spend that like every couple of weeks or every month because they would become the stores and they would have these giant auctions. They would just buy in bulk they would have people that would they become a store. They would buy people's collections for like half off. They would hire people to sift through them and say what are the right prices, and they would go and yeah, there'd be people that spend actually $1 million a month. Yeah, like more than that.
Jeez.
Like troll and toad, like just make a noise like like you.
Mm.
Yeah, so they would do that, and I guarantee the same thing happens here now. Like they'll just be whales. They'll just be like because there'll be drops at some point, probably this year, but maybe next year that there's not going to be any more days where we don't have drops, and then there'll be multiple times a day, and they'll be like every 8 hours, and then there'll be drops like okay every 4 hours, whatever. Um, so on, some people that have bought a whole bunch of OMI and they let's say they already have enough money and they don't really care about that. They just bought OMI because they could use that OMI to buy collectibles and just have every set, whatever. Sure, there'll be people that do that, but there'll be people that'll come in that'll want to just become the store. That'll just be like, oh, it's just 3 in the morning, and relax. I'm gonna buy it all, become the store, and they'll have that for. It's gonna be impossible to do for season one, and probably the first couple seasons, but definitely season one. I would not be shocked to see people that have collections for season one, especially matching sets, uh, that go for tens or hundreds of $1,000s just for those sets, and probably like especially sub 100s, you could probably see like all of them go for if you have right now all sets of season one sub 100, that could go for high hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not a million, because it's just impossible to get now. Or you'd have to really wait and be patient. But yeah, I think that in the future, most people you're just gonna have to collect what you like. Most people will not. 99.9% of it will not be able to keep up with everything. Only if you bought a fudge ton of OMI, or if you just have a fudge ton of money and want to become the store and make a business out of that, which people will do.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like, yeah, I feel like some of the comic guys and, new people to the community or, even some of the other content creators, I see that some of them already run their own business and they already kind of, aim to probably be that, I'm sure. And it makes sense, if you're getting these comics super cheap and then, a year from now you can or maybe not even a year, like the next bull cycle, you can just like flip all those comics for double the price or whatever because you've been sitting on them for so cheap that you stacked them for so cheap. So it just makes sense, and yeah, it's just like I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
other way to say it other than it just makes sense. But
It blows my mind that some first appearances of certain characters are going below, like the seven, like for the comics, the commons are going below retail. That is absolute madness, and the people that are doing that, I think, are fools. Like that, like unless you just say like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna gamble on this. I don't really like the comic, whatever. I could care less. I just want to pay $7 and I get that high of flipping, the secret rare for X amount of money. If I could do that, great. I get that feel good chemical. If I don't care. $7, I'll just sell it and just retry another thing. If that's it, cool. But if people are just being impatient right now, that is like that is one of the worst qualities to have as an investor is to in patience. Warren Buffett said, money goes from the impatient to the patient.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, it makes sense too because it's like we've seen people like come in and out of the community quite a bit, and it's probably like oh you can tell they might have like taken a big loss or a big L and maybe sold too soon, and now that they're out of liquidity, they can't really participate too much. They have to wait till they get their paychecks rolling in. So it does make sense. Now big picture, metaverse. We're gonna zoom out a little bit. Did you
yeah.
see Time Magazine? Like, did a whole like front page of their magazine. It featured like the metaverse, basically, just saying it like it's the future. Um,
Yeah, that's really new. I'm going to put that in today's video. Yeah.
yeah. So like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, I know I've heard you talk about the VeVe verse a little bit there, but big picture, what do you think Disney's gonna do? And then a little bit after that, like, what do you in terms of Disney's relationship with VeVe, where do you think that's gonna go? But first, let's answer the Disney question. Where's Disney going? Accelerator program. Curious what your thoughts are on the whole like macro. bird's eye view of Disney's strategy. Maybe they don't even have a strategy. Maybe it's just like let's throw spaghetti on the wall. Like, but I'm curious, what's your thoughts?
So I think that for Disney, they said a lot of their stuff, their metaverse really wants to be AR driven, and because they have a lot of infrastructure already, whether it's Hong Kong, Paris, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if they're in London, but California or Florida, they have a lot of major parks infrastructure, and I think they would say like, oh hey, here's a little game that you could have, go here and collect it. Like there's already mini games that don't really like they have every now and then they have little Mickey Mouse like ears that are incorporated into the architecture and the artwork. And it's like a little Easter egg for something. Oh, I see one. I see one. You'll never be able to find all of them because there's so many of them. But what if there was a game like there was an achievement on Xbox, let's say in like Assassin's Creed, where you find like 100 of these like flags or 100 of these things, whatever. If you could do that, like that just incentivizes people to go to the park just to play that game, just to go and say
Yeah,
like, oh, I've gone through all of these. Did I miss one? Like they that has been successful in so many video games. They're going to have that type of challenge and do that. And I'm looking for the photo right now of what I took the other day at the mall because like people for whatever reason don't believe me that there's a shop in a mall next to me that has a like it's like a selfie center. It's a selfie store where they go and the only thing that they do is they have a bunch of different rooms for people and they could just take selfies in there. And what I think is probably going to happen is that Disney, for their metaverse, and this is really good for VeVe, and again, I could be wrong, but I guarantee they have selfie stations or places where, like, hey, take a selfie with your Disney digital collectible. Where are the only places that you have that right now? It's on VeVe. I mean, maybe I don't even know if they were officially licensed with Quid. I don't even know if they're NFTs. Maybe they could have something like that for them, but for the most part, it's gonna be VeVe, I think. And again, I
yeah,
could be
yeah.
they might not do that, but if their metaverse is going to be AR driven, that just makes a lot of sense. Did you ask
Right.
about VeVe in that or just about Disney?
Yeah, Disney's kind of strategy and maybe what they might do with Vivi in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know who would build it because Disney's not really good at making video games. Even for Kingdom Hearts, they licensed out to Square Enix. So I'm curious to see who would build their metaverse. I don't know why they don't just buy Square Enix. I don't know why they just don't. That's a couple $1 billion. I don't know. They wouldn't do that. They have video games forever, like for life.
Well, Square Enix
And
is bullish on NFTs, so
yeah,
maybe. I mean, maybe that's the move for Disney. Who knows?
I would hope so. I hope that's a move.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would really like that for them.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do over the next couple of years. It's like going back to what Alcon said. It's like you take the gift shop with you. I mean, in Disney's mind, I could see them definitely doing that. It makes sense. I don't know what that looks like. I know with like the Apple Store, they have it's like you walk into the Apple Store and there's like all these products and you got Apple geniuses. It's like Disney already has a bunch of Disney stores. Like why not just iterate upon those stores and build out these experiences not only with like in the store but like with their products, their products you can quote unquote take it into the metaverse with you or scan the barcode and now it's in your phone in the VeVe app. They just partner with VeVe like you said, the way that they partner with Square Enix to make a game, why not just do the same thing with VeVe or at least to some degree. So I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of just common sense strategies that could be easy to adopt, especially, short term. Long term, they could do, a multitude of things and they'll have more money to probably do so the next bull cycle and markets allowing and all that. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, so this is a big conspiracy theory I have, which I could email that. I just ask the team, and they could be like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe, get a straight answer out of them." But Reese had said on Akil Patterson's website, on his podcast, that when he when Akil asked, "What do you use like all the money for?" and he's like, "Oh, we go to pay the devs, and we go and we do X and Y and Z, and then we pay for the Viverse as well." They if he would have just said paying like it would be assumed if he didn't say that paying the devs goes to paying the Viviverse. But the fact that he said that two separate times makes me think that
Hmm.
VeVe is not building the Viviverse and they're hiring that out to another different. Because I imagine all the devs, I imagine everyone there is super busy on these drops that
Hmm.
they're doing. And as they expand, like they'll be doing that more. But um, I would imagine that the VV verse is being built. So my theory is that because a lot of these big companies don't really know about NFTs, and I've talked to a decent amount of them, I think it would be if I was Disney and I didn't know a lot about NFTs, one, I would just be researching like a mother flapper. But I would also why I am not concerned with Disney buying VeVe and why I'm not concerned with Disney doing their own thing with NFTs is because Disney, if I were them, I would use VeVe as like a public, like, hey, you go first. I'm not going to step on this tile. I'm going to wait to see what happens to y'all first.
Right,
And
right.
if let's say the NFTs review fails, Disney would be like, well, that wasn't us. We didn't fail. This company failed.
Yeah, yeah.
And they say like, okay, well, we're not good at building video games. We'll have VeVe that's using our NFTs, and if they're paying for a company to build their metaverse, let's just let them pay for it, and then they could build ours as well, and maybe that could be part of the agreement. We'll give you our licenses if you pay to build our metaverse or something. And then if it fails again, Disney can say that wasn't our metaverse. Then they could learn from VeVe's mistakes or every other mistake. Part of the reason why I think the VeVerse hasn't been released yet is because they wanted Yuga Labs to go, they wanted Frogland to go, they want Illuvium to have their land sale. Earth 2's obviously had their land sales for a while, and they're incorporating the game like drone and stuff like that, the engine building. I think that VeVe's waiting and learning from other people's what works and what doesn't work, and I think Disney's doing that for them. It's like the way that Africa is China's China.
Mhm.
Uh, I think that VeVe VeVe is Disney's VeVe, or you know what I mean. Like they're just
Yeah,
using
yeah.
that, yeah, and I think that's what they're
Yeah,
doing.
it mitigates, yeah, like kind of transfers that liability to VeVe. And like you said, like if anything bad happens, like, oh, that was VeVe, like not me. Like, oh, like, or bad PR, it saves them. Like, well, what if VeVe got bad PR, which, they didn't. But I think, what was it? The Cthulhu's was the only company really that got bad PR, and the rest of them, most of the brands like are fine, so.
Yeah, that was so strange. Where like the ones with Cthulhu, okay, they don't have their NFTs anywhere else, so that's it makes sense or it doesn't make sense that they backed out. I wish they wouldn't have done that because I feel like a lot of people like the amount of people that I've seen that are really interested in the blockchain and technology and non-fungible tokens in general, they have grown exponentially in the last few years.
Mhm.
But during the same period, the number of like woke, environmentally concerned people, or just regular old people that just completely ignore and try to destroy what they don't understand, have risen at a commensurate rate. So get the world has to have balance, and that maybe there's a causality in between them, but there was no. I'm really angry at the people that made Cthulhu and all that they really kowtowed to the people that saying like, oh, these are NFTs are harming the environment when some are a little bit, I guess, but the ones that we have on Immutable X, which are relatively gasless, that they're not at all. And the fact that we were able to release NFTs of Star Trek and we didn't get any of that, but when Recur released it, then they got all that flack. I'm so curious as to why that happened.
Mhm.
I don't know if you read any of the responses on the stuff with Star Trek. It is
Mhm.
absolutely mind blowing. And just Google, or don't even Google, go on their Twitter and take a look at the the pictures of the people that were complaining, and they're just like, oh God, it's like honey, like oh friend, like they're not they're not people you'd want to take like a financial advice from, but it's just it's the
It's just like a
big
misplaced like hate and rage almost. It's like they go so far, but it's like just educate yourself a little bit before, you make an assumption, just
that's
and
getting
I
their
think
hearts in the
like,
right place.
yeah, and I think, yeah, their hearts definitely, like you're saying, definitely protect the environment for sure. But it's like a lot of these, like Polygon, I don't know about Immutable X, but it may be even more efficient than Polygon. And I'm assuming it is. But Polygon, it's like to send an NFT or something like that, it's like equivalent to sending two emails, which is like essentially nothing.
Yeah.
So in my mind, when I think about somebody playing a board game and going to a physical location, think about that. Think about you actually have to go You have to get
Yeah.
ready. You have to eat. You have to jump in your car that has fuel, and combustion motor, and drive all the way down to your local, collectible store, for
Yeah.
instance, and then you have to play the game. And then those lights that are burning overhead to power that electricity. That's actually more energy. That's a bigger carbon footprint than just collecting the NFT or playing a simple, game on the internet. But that's just, I mean, you could go into like all these different like ways and things, but I think that we're so early in the blockchain, and I think, like you said, people's hearts are in the right places. And yeah, like some blockchains are terribly inefficient, but we are in the beginning phases. And I think long run, like what VeVe's doing, cutting down on consumption of plastic, of drive-throughs, like I see the future for NFTs being cutting down on all that manufacturing costs and all that plastic. Kids just throwing toys away, like, but now you can collect them on VeVe and have them forever. So it's like,
Yeah.
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 So
I think with appropriate like client education, I think we can empower people to make informed decisions about which NFTs are best to buy. Not like investment, but just which one's better for the environment. And again, the hearts are in the right place, and I think that again with that education, that people will learn. But yeah, I'm really happy you had gone over that because there's a repeat that last part you said, like the last like two sentences. Yeah.
yeah, it was just the consumption and manufacturing of like
Yes.
plastics and all that.
So the part of the reason why I really got invested in VeVe because the disruption of collecting, and that for people saying like VeVe is like the Amazon of NFTs, which I guess is kind of true. But again, there's no logistics with it. They don't have to hire these random like line workers assembling these things or pay for the machinery to go and make them. They just kind of create them and then they just send them out there. They don't have to have insurance on like kids choking on the parts. It's
Yeah.
just
And
it's
shipping, and another
yeah,
human being like driving and literally
yeah,
grabbing a box full of all this like plastic, and then you know driving with a motor all the way to somewhere Timbuktu, so
yeah. Take out all the middlemen and you have the yeah. It's so disruptive that's one of the reasons why I knew it was going to be successful.
yeah, yeah, massively disruptive. And it's like we're just getting warmed up too. So it's like we're so early, like, and that's what like I try to tell people is like, yeah, blockchain's so early, like, and there's a big stigma in the gaming sector as well. It's like, why do we need these NFTs? Why do we need blockchain? But everybody's just so early that I think hindsight, 10 years from now, it's like, oh yeah, duh, like owning your own assets in the game, that's like hecka cool. Like, of course I'd want to own this sword. Like, why wouldn't I want to? Because you could take that sword now, and if they produce another game, like maybe it's a Square Enix or whatever, you can use it in that game in the future. So I think when gamers like think about it like that, they're like, oh yeah, and their hearts in the right places too, because it's like they've been so wronged in the past, and I think still like there's still a lot of like bad projects out there, and and aside from VeVe, like we've witnessed a lot of bad projects like outside of VeVe, like projects going to zero, and just like terrible shenanigans going on in the wider NFT space, and it kind of sucks that we get looped into what's happening in scam land and things like that. So
Yeah, bad times for 'em.
for sure, for sure. Well, we've been going at it for about an hour, and I think, man, like, is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or
Um,
you're
no,
going to?
just
So wait, you're going to San Diego Comic Con, right? So you're gonna be,
yeah.
yeah. So that's like what? Like that's not even that far away, is it?
I mean, it is for me. I'm in New York, so it's it's
No, like a date, like date wise, like
oh yeah, I leave on Wednesday morning.
Wednesday.
So like a day and a half, like 36
Yeah.
hours, like less than 36 hours from now.
So
Um,
we'll be expecting you streaming there and hanging out with maybe David you at the Marvel booth or something crazy.
yeah, most of what I'll be doing there is it's unfortunate that they're requiring people to wear masks.
Hmm.
So it's going to be really hard to interview and really hard to, but most of what I'm going to be doing there is just helping onboard users
Just get one of
and
those see-through ones.
yeah, I probably should. So if I can do that, that's pretty much what my life is going to be for 4 or 5 days. And if I could do that well, then great. My job will have been done. And if I can't do it well, then I have failed. So
No,
that's
no.
the way to look
I
at it.
literally like, for all of us that can't make it, I think we're all excited to see like this is like they're at the Marvel booth. This is what we expected like last year, and we had that whole like metaverse thing. What was it called? I forget. I don't even remember. It was oh gosh.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to have that. Yeah, the intro to something, intro to the metaverse, something like that.
Yeah, well,
Um,
yeah. Last year we had that like little video game, like metaverse thing, Future Tech Live or something like that. But we were expecting like a cool like whole VeVe setup at San
yeah,
Diego Comic Con. We didn't get it. So this year, like at the Marvel booth, like it's gonna be full stop. I don't know. It's just gonna be pretty sweet. So I'm really excited for your streams, man. Like I know I'll be tuning in for sure. So
yeah. I hope that the internet is good there, and I could just stream, or not even that. I hope the network is good,
that's
right?
true. Yeah, a lot of people
100,000 people on the Wi-Fi is probably not
clogging it
very
up.
good.
Yeah.
So hopefully the network's okay, and I could do that. Um, the one last thing I did want to add for the people that were starting the YouTube would be, it's easier for me to handle some of the comments just because I was born with just like I like to laugh, and if someone throws like a good insult out there, like so it said like recently that I look like an index finger because like I'm starting to lose my hair, and it just I was like,
Oh, that's
okay,
mean. Yeah.
this like it's funny, but also like from the military, and you're just having like really old school parents that would like say or do anything to try and make you behave, or punish you. Like I have very thick skin. If you're someone that can't take even like healthy criticism, I would say don't do it. It's going to be a lot of stress. But if you're someone that
Sure.
can like
Yeah.
just brush it off, and can deal with the horribleness that is Reddit, then you'll be fine.
Yeah,
You'll be
that's
good.
that's a solid point. Yeah, it's like definitely like yeah, if you're a YouTuber, you're gonna get nasty comments, and my mentality is just keep it moving. It's like, oh, I read this comment, keep it moving.
Uh,
Uh, I don't think my wife could do a YouTube channel based on the comments. I don't think she would be able to do it. She would get so emotionally, like just over one comment would just derail her entire. Like, why did they? Like, she would break it down, psycho and like analyze it, and then be like, am I really that way? Like, it would just be this whole thing. Yeah, it's just like at first I kind of like not battled with it, but I would say, but it was just one of those things where I pondered on it and I was like, oh, this person's probably just hurting a bunch to say something like that.
yeah.
And just it's whatever. Like, and then but yeah, like the first bear market of 2018, it got so bad. Like it was just insanity. Like because people were losing big time money back then, and obviously like now today we're still in a bear market, but I feel like it's not as like tremendous. But a lot of people back then put like I mean every like people with families and things like that. So it was like one of those things for me. I was like, okay, I like this. I can't mentally I had to check out a little bit, but now I'm back and I fortified my mental, mindset. And yeah, now it's just like, okay, yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm more responsible too. So it's like that's another thing. It's like I feel like I'm more careful what I say. Or at least I try to be. So
I feel you. Same. I mean, it does make you learn about yourself a little more as well, because if you can learn about yourself, then you can go and uh I don't know, I think that's just better. You help
that's
yourself grow as a
good.
person.
100%. I love that. Like, yeah, if you can grow yourself and learn from that, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, I'm excited, like, once again about San Diego Comic Con. And where can people find you? You're on Twitter, you're on YouTube. Uh,
Yeah, at,
yeah,
at Real Randy Chavez, or the real on Twitter, the Real Randy Chavez on YouTube, or just there's the best places. Yeah, I answer every single YouTube comment, and I would say that's if the quickest response would be on a YouTube comment. Actually, the stuff on like Instagram and Twitter, those messages can just get buried, and it
Twitter's
takes
hard.
me a while to Yeah,
How many
a lot.
followers do you have on Twitter now?
Like 11,000 something. So
11,000? Yeah, my Twitter
yeah,
growth has just like dropped off a little bit, but man, Twitter, like you just said, it can bury, like comments can get buried under there. So,
yeah,
yeah, YouTube definitely you can see that a lot quicker. So,
yeah. And then I would say, yeah, I would say that's it. And then just tag me and stuff if you want, and hopefully I can see it and I could respond. But I do videos every day. I answer every comment, and then I live stream all the time. I'll be live streaming tonight, so that'll be
wait a
that's it.
minute. Famous fridge, like what's up with that fridge back there for new people tuning in?
Oh, that's if people wanted to
I,
go and advertise like their channel or their Twitter or whatever on the fridge. It's and you're on there.
yeah.
It's two alligator Lokis per month. And then on the freezer, there's actually really no spots left. But on the freezer, that's kind of like a for life thing. Um, actually, it's not anymore. There's at Hey David Don and I think Kobe collects and only play one. Those if they don't renew, the freezer spots will open up. Those are a little more valuable. But the last three that I had outside of them because those are doing like kind of like by every quarter. They were $5,000 in NFTs per spot, so it was a lot.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Man,
it's a lot better to do the
I
monthly.
have a spot right here. It'll cost at least one Todd per month. No, no. Well, yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm fully expecting a maybe a fridge drop NFT collection from you one day. So,
Yeah, maybe that, maybe Dashy. We'll see.
oh yeah, Dashy would be good. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming on the channel. It was great. We're gonna have to do this again. Like this is like
I'll see you
just
tomorrow on my
episode.
channel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like we're gonna go to Randy's channel tomorrow. Smash the smash the like if you enjoyed the stream, sub and hit the bell, turn on notifications so you don't miss any more videos like this and special interviews. And Randy, I appreciate you for coming on, and be like
Yeah,
an
sure.
NFT, be authentic, and we'll catch y'all tomorrow on Randy's stream. Peace.
Bye bye, Dashy.